Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar, Global ADC Drug Development and China Opportunity. My name is Echo Hindoyang. I'm the CEO of MSQ Ventures. I'm honored to moderate this insightful panel discussion with all distinguished speakers who are the pioneers of ADC drug development. Thanks everyone for joining me. So we have Dr. Nikihi Mutual from Executive Director from Merck. And we have Dr. Robert Zhao, CEO of ADC Biotechnology, and John Damon, CBO of CSBC Pharmaceutical, and Dr. Ziping Wei, CEO of Breeze Biopharmaceutical. So I would like to invite each speaker to introduce themselves. And since we only have one lady speaker here, so lady first, Dr. Wei, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ziping Wei from Bliss Bio. Bliss Bio is a clinical stage company located in Hangzhou, China. The company was founded in December 2017, so we are about 5 years old. We have 3 ADC products under clinical development. We received the IND approval from both from US FDA and the NMPA in China. So our team member, we have 105 team member. We also have facility for GMP production for antibody and the ADC. Just speaking for myself, I was in US for 28 years before I returned to China from this company. I received my PhD from Rutgers and had over 20 years industry experience in the CMC development, working at the MedImmune, was part of AstraZeneca, and also Novavax, BMS, and J&J. During that time, I had experience working with 2 ADC products. The rest of the monoclonal, bispecific, but it was all innovative biologics.
Thanks. Next, Robert Zhao.
Yeah, my name is Robert Zhao. I'm the founder and the CEO of the Hangzhou DAC Biotech Company. Our company was founded back 10 years ago, which is the last day of the 2012. We work for ADC for 10 years now. We have 6 pipelines in the clinical trial, and also we have around 26 pipeline, which is in the different the stage in the development. We have several collaboration with the big pharma and also the small biotech company as well, both in US and in China. Typically, we signed the deals last year with J&J, which is a GSM biotech company, which we collaborate, let them use our ADC platform to develop the 5+1 drugs, ADC drugs. My background is medicinal chemistry by training. I have the experience with several companies in US. Typically, I worked for Immunogen for 12 years there. So since 2012, we work our own the platform now. Thank you.
Thank you. John, please.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm John Adamu. I'm Chief Business Officer of CSBC Pharmaceutical Group. I'm actually located in the East Coast in the US. Just a little background on the CSBC. CSBC is one of the leading innovative pharmaceutical companies in China, has fully integrated capabilities from R&D, manufacturing, and commercialization. The company has a history. It's been founded in 1938. It's headquartered out of Shanghai, and it's listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. We have more than 25,000 employees, which includes about 40% of that, 10,000 sales reps, which is one of the largest commercial platforms established in China. We also have 11 manufacturing sites in China, covering both small molecules and biologics. We have a pretty deep pipeline. We have more than 100 innovative programs across 6 therapeutic areas. Our 2 core therapeutic areas are CNS and oncology. We also have activity in autoimmune diseases, metabolism, cardiovascular, and anti-infectives. From a financial standpoint, we have generated revenues of 4.4 billion, which was last year in 2022, and which is an 11% increase over the prior year. We have 3 ADC programs in development. We had licensed out over the last year or so 2 of those programs. We had licensed in 2022 to Elevation Oncology, our Claudin 18.2 ADC. And last month in February, we had licensed out our Nectin-4 ADC to Corbus Pharmaceutical. A little bit of my background, I've been in the life science industry for about 30 years. The first 8 years I was in research and development. And then the last 22 years or so in a BD leadership capacity. My probably longest tenure was at Boehringer Ingelheim, where I built and headed the strategic transaction and business development function out of the US. And prior to joining CSPC, I was at Beijing for 3 years and worked on one of the most transformational deals at that time, where we in-licensed 20 oncology programs from Amgen plus 3 commercial products.
Thank you, John. So we have the biotech and the biopharma from the east side. Now we have the bigger player from west side. Nikki, please.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Nikhil Mutyal, I'm Executive Director in Business Development and Licensing Group with Merck & Company, also known as MSD outside of US and Canada. I am part of the Pacific Hub Group, which is responsible for companies, academic institution, and venture capitalists based on western coast of US, Canada, and the Asia Pacific region. I personally support oncology, neuroscience, and cardiometabolic disease areas from a BD perspective, where I work very closely with our therapeutic area heads and functional heads to find, evaluate opportunities that are external and license or acquire them to bring into the Merck portfolio. 65% of Merck revenues actually comes from licensing opportunities, so quite a lot external facing. By background, I'm a PhD scientist by training, but I've been doing BD for the last 10 years. Before Merck, I used to lead oncology BD at Jazz Pharma. And before that, I was with a small side biotech company. And I started my career in management strategy consulting right after grad school. At Merck, obviously, as everybody is aware, Merck is quite interested in ADCs. We have done quite a few external deals, including a Seattle Genetics collaboration for Tukysa, which is a HER2 small molecule, and then the LIV-1 ADC. We did the Velos Bio acquisition for ROR1 ADC, and then most recently, we had a couple of deals with the Kelun Bio, which is based in China around several ADC programs. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Thanks every speaker for your contribution and also your insightful sharing to the audience today, especially at this very interesting time. And this morning, and Pfizer finally inked the deal with the Seagen for the $43 billion. I think this definitely is a booster for the industry, but also is a great news after the whole very eventful weekend. The 2 banks closed down, and so I think I would like to get the insight from all of you. Like during this capital market downtime, this transaction is really, I think, bring the hope to the community. So what do you see the impact on the biotech industry, and how will this acquisition change the global ADC landscape? We may have Nikki first.
Yeah, sure. So, acquisition in any form is always good because you are basically returning capital back to the ecosystem with the entrepreneurs, the venture capital, the investors. It spurs, additional investment in the ecosystem. So it's really going to be good for the Seattle ecosystem. I mean, all these folks, ADC experts, will either stay with Pfizer, or some of them will move on and start their own ventures and start new ADC companies. So that's always going to be good. Overall, ADC as as a field in general, this just solidifies that there has been a lot of interest, overall from big pharma, big players. And if we compare and contrast that to maybe a few years back, 8-10 years back, ADCs were not the hottest. We had the Mylotarg approval from Pfizer, more than 20 years ago. After that, there was not much activity in the ADC fields, primarily because the linker payload systems were not stable enough. They couldn't be dosed high enough to see therapeutic window, and toxicities were dominating. But people work to solve those issues, and here we are. Slate of ADCs have been approved in solid tumors, very transformational efficacies with things like Enhertu. So yeah, I think the acquisition just goes further. It's going to solidify and take it further, the interest in ADCs from all the players.
Thank you, John. So from your perspective, what do you see that the impact and what are the other opportunities there?
Yeah, I mean, this was a deal that everybody was waiting for, that was announced, some time ago, but we were waiting for it to be completed. But it really signifies the importance of ADC and where the market is headed. Seegene has been a pioneer in the ADC market. I mean, they have 4 out of the 12 marketed products already. So that's a significant accomplishment on their part. And I think, Pfizer stepping into that area really signifies the importance of ADC. And they certainly paid a hefty premium on that acquisition. So I think this was a significant deal for ADC in general. And again, it signifies the importance of this area and the growth, because based on what I've read, it looks like Pfizer is looking at risk-adjusted revenues in 10 billion sometime in 2030. So there's significant growth within this area, and I think it signifies the importance of this space.
I think we hope to see more such a transaction. So also, Robert, I think this probably is very good news for China biotech community, because it seems that China is leading the ADC drug development, especially like your company have been very strong platform. And so how do you see this impact for China community?
Yeah. Basically, the Chinese company has have developed a lot of the kinds of the platform of the ADCs during the past 5 or 10 years. What I can see is the technology driven is very important for the small biotech company, like the Seegene, which is developed the allosteric platform for over 20 years now. And also they have many other platforms like the payload, the linker, the combination. They develop different kinds of the ADC platform, typically for the payload. They also have so far like the Daiichi Sankyo's the topoisomerase. The Seegene has that one as well. They also has kinds of DNA monogroup binder. Several different things driven for this the deal. I believe for the next 4 or 5 years, the Chinese company can do those types of things as well. We, like us or many other companies, try to find the deal with the US, the big pharma, try to see we can develop together to make the drug successful. Basically right now, many small companies like us do not have enough money or do not have enough experience for the clinical trial. We have to find the deal with the big pharma to sell our technology to the global market. That's the important thing to push us to find more collaborations. So I believe that will be happen very soon.
That's great. It's more the global collaboration.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Wei, what do you think that's this acquisition impact, or what does it mean to your firm too?
Yeah, I think it's definitely exciting news. we see that the strengths of a biotech united with the strengths of biopharma, right? The biotech has strengths of technology. The biopharma typically they are strong in funding and also late stage development and the marketing. So it's a great, putting them together. From us, I think we always want to unite the strengths of West and the East. Like we have talent from US side with the US experience, and also we want to unite the strengths in China that we have patient populations, all the different fundings, all the different strengths. So I think it's a trend also for collaboration, global collaboration, right? To make the big value of the product we're developing. I also remember that in 2018, 2019, the Pfizer was getting out of the ADC business, because I was at the World ADC, knowing, which company were presenting and all what's the, most updated, trend. And I think now it's really, ADC is being proven, for the value. It can meet the unmet medical need. It can address solid tumor, unmet medical needs. I think it's a really great time for ADC.
Thank you for the sharing. I think that's what I heard is that the new hope and also the capital, it seems like injected to the industry again, and such M&A also incentive the investors to invest more back to the biotech, and the biopharma will always say, I think probably Kihi, you always say that often is, I'm waiting for more data. So now let's take a step back to review the history of global ADC development. Do you guys think now is a peak time of ADC? Is like we are going up the peak now, or we are kind of like going down? So what are the other potential opportunities for new technology and targets in this field?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, with ADCs, obviously, new antigens and targets, people, keep coming up with those all the time. So, TROP2, Nectin-4, and now, we see some new targets such as Cadherin-6 from Daiichi Sankyo, B6A from Seattle Genetics. So people find newer targets which are more selective, to certain tumor types and low expression on normal tissues. Obviously, there is always innovation on that front. There's innovation on the payload and the linker fronts as well. So people are trying to make sure that they get higher DARs. We are seeing, DARs easily now, 8, DAR and things like that, which are pretty high compared to where we were as an industry 5 years, 6 years ago. More stable conjugation and easier conjugation technologies. And then from a payload side, people are innovating from the payload as well, cytotoxic payload wise. We used to start with that, and now, we have something like a DXT, which is a next generation payload, which seems, quite good for, the Enhertu efficacy and safety wise. We have seen it's fairly good. So people are innovating on that front, and not just, cytotoxic death, but also from the perspective of immunogenicity and combining with other IO drugs such as checkpoint inhibitor that can help as well. The other part of ADC also is people are using antibodies to conjugate other payloads, not just cytotoxic payloads, but degraders, oligonucleotides, things like that, to deliver them into cell, because it's a good modality to deliver something that is not cell penetrable, let's say, for an example, but the antibody conjugation can take it inside the cell. So that's also a very exciting area that new biotechnology companies have started working on.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that was pretty comprehensive coverage on the technology. I think maybe another area is, using novel antibody formats. Maybe perhaps instead of the single monoclonal antibody, perhaps go with bispecific antibodies or antibody fragments that, you can create new ADCs and with novel properties and perhaps enhance efficacy as well.
Robert, what do you think that in platform like innovation?
Yeah, I believe it's you if you look at the history, original the people work on the antibody, conjugate to the very toxic the cytotoxic drug. Now the many different company try to find out the varieties of the kind of ADCs. Like we know the earlier this year or actually last year, the Masana signed a deal with the GSK, work on the STING ADC. The Upway has the Adam the adalimumab conjugates the glucocorticoid, those types of the anti-TNF, the ADC, those type of things that people work on right now already. We can see the different kind of ADC will be developed. If you see from the next 3 or 5 years, we can see many different kind of things will be happen. So I believe that right now the area is quite changed a lot, not only for the oncology and for the immunology and also the anti-infection. Some other kind of things will be happen very soon, I believe. Basically for us, we work on different kind of things now already. We'll see the more different things will be happens.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Wei, I think you mentioned you have a lot of the CMC background. So I think the manufacturing is very challenging for ADC and also is a very important factor for developing the treatment. So what do you see the new opportunity there, and what's the advantage in China now?
Yeah, I think ADC is a very complex molecule, right? You have to get the antibody down very well. Then you also have a toxin, the plus linker. Then you have the ADC component. So almost 3 times of the workload compared to you make just a small molecule molecule compound. So definitely there is there are a lot of challenges for CMC, but I think in China, our challenge probably also with the imported goods, like we have a lot of imported stuff that may have long lead time. I think the advantage here is probably our cost of goods overall will be better. Usually in China, we have a better cost of the goods. But we also have to manage challenges with the imported good supply chain. It's a complex supply chain, right? So, but I think overall it still has advantage for manufacturing in China.
Thank you for sharing. So we in the past, even last year was challenging for the biotech industry, but actually China, especially Chinese biotech, have been made the title like a headline everywhere is ADC licensed out to the bigger pharma company, and there, of course, the one is Likihi closed with Kelun and developed from I think like a test love and become the really tied up like a marriage, like a close relationship, and take the baby step. And now with Kelun is really bound together for the ADC. So I would invite everyone to share how do Chinese biotech manage to shine in the ADC drug development globally, and what is from the China regulation, capital support, and clinical trial? How did that happen? And I may invite Likihi to also share the case study of the Kelun and the Merck's transaction as well.
Yeah, sure. So I think as you alluded to, the relationship that Merck has with Kelun started small first. So we basically collaborated on the TROP2 ADC, which is, now the data has been made public. It looks pretty good. We started with that. What we wanted to do was see how both of our companies work together. We also wanted to make sure, as you mentioned, the CMC is a little bit tricky. So we wanted to make sure that the CMC issues that we had identified were addressed. So That was the goal. And once we worked through the collaboration 1.5 years, we saw that it was, going very fruitfully to our expectation. The gaps from a CMC perspective were addressed quite proactively by Keloon. So that gave us a lot of confidence that this is a relationship that has a lot of potential. So we expanded that further with the additional target, and then more recently we added 7 additional targets to that relationship. So this is pretty typical of Merck's MSD's deal making. We typically like to start small, so that we can see how the teams work together, is their fit culturally and from a trust perspective, is the technology and science as good as, promised. We evaluate that together, and then if we see data that we really like, there are bigger things that can happen. So, yeah.
So what, Nikki, I know you have you must be review global landscape before you make decision with Keloon. So how do you see the China ADC development different from other region like US, Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as somebody had alluded to, a lot of innovation happens in China, from ADC perspective, cell therapy perspective. So we do look at globally, all opportunities in ADC space. We do a landscape, and we bring all, opportunities forward. From a China perspective, I think, the flexibility of the partner working together with us very proactively, as I mentioned, being open to feedback, being open to changing that and making necessary changes, was pretty critical to us. The technology and the science is a given. I mean, that, has to be there. But on top of that, as I mentioned, the ability to take feedback, be flexible, work together, and be willing to address, any key gaps that we may identify to bring it to Merck standard, I think really helped. And, other thing I'll also mention is many times China, we see the deal terms are slightly more favorable than maybe a US or a European company. And the reason why I say that is, many times US companies or European companies want to retain certain, rights, commercial rights to the drugs, to themselves. Many companies in the US actually seek for co-development, co-commercialization sort of agreements, which, are not the ideal deal construct for a big pharma like Merck. So, many Chinese companies are more flexible in that regard. They are more open to global rights. So that also is a consideration.
Oh, that's a very interesting point, because a lot of the Western biotech company, when they license out to Chinese company, they worried about without China rights will like impact on the future global deals. Thank you for sharing. So Robert, you also closed the transaction with Johnson & Johnson. So could you please share this transaction, and also to like how the China regulation, capital support, and the clinical trial actually help your company developer to like take advanced step than the Western peers?
Yeah, first I should mention that, to emphasize, which is we have the unique technology for the conjugation, and also unique the ADC platform, which is different from others. And basically, when we collaborate with the Janssen Biotech, which is the part of Johnson & Johnson, we start from try to find the differences. And basically in China, we have more the bioengineer and also more the chemistry. That's our strength. We develop the different types of the technology to persuade the J&J to let them reveal the patterns, reveal our technology. Finally, we tried a little bit as a Mickey said, we start from the simple things, then finally go to the sign the deal. basically in China now, during the past 10 years, the ADC was boosted by, of course, by the finance and also by the government incentive and also the others the policy from the government as well. But of course, during the past 2 years, we have the little bit different things change because the whole the market, the biotech is a little bit cooling down. But still, we have the people work in the biotech area. There's many people, and also in China, there's a big market for the health industry. Of course, compared with the US, well, still quite small because now the people, has not enough the money to afford the high, the price of the biotech drugs. But still, for the deal point of view, basically Chinese company develop a different type of things that can let things happen. Typically for the collaboration happens. I cannot comment too much regarding our the deal from J&J, but still during the past almost 1 year now, we learn a lot from the J&J regarding the antibody development and also the new technology. They also learn from our side as well, regarding the ADC, the conjugation improvements, and also the unique conjugation technology. We, basically that's collaboration happens. We develop different type of things, and also the many new things, will be coming out very soon as well. So that's thing I believe I only can comment that. So that's very important from both of us.
Okay, thank you for sharing. So do you see that the China VC have been like especially interested in ADC developer company in the past few years?
Yeah, if you say the 3 years ago or 2 years ago, the money, the capital tried to give your money to incentive to get the more finance. But right now the market is a little bit cool down. But I believe so probably for the next couple of months, if they look at the Pfizer's Seagen's deal, I believe this industry, ADC industry will boost another plateau as well. I believe.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that sharing. So next, John, could you please give us some insight about how the CSPC pharmaceutical company developed themselves from the traditional a Chinese herb or made focus on that to be the innovative drug developer, and also successfully exclusive license agreement with Cobas pharmaceutical company. So could you please provide some insight?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the CSPC has taken, a typical approach where they believed ADC is an important area. So we had put significant investment and time to develop our own ADC platform technology. And, this technology utilized a good talent pool. So we had 2 research sites, one in China, and we also have a research site in the US in the West Coast that focused on ADC development of the platform. So our platform is proprietary. We believe that it has advantages in terms of the ADC design in linker and conjugation and payload that produces a more purified ADC molecule with excellent PK and a wide therapeutic index. So once we had this in place, then we, of course, utilized it internally, and we're developing 3 molecules in the clinic. One was the Claudin 18.2, which is in phase 1, which we licensed to Elevation Oncology. The second was Nectin-4 ADC, which we licensed to Corbus Pharmaceuticals in February. And we also have HER2 ADC antibody, which is in pivotal trials in China. So I think, for us, we have a very strong presence in China, both from a development, commercial, and manufacturing capabilities, but we're leveraging other companies that have a strong focus in precision medicine and oncology to help develop the program outside of China. So these are two very important partnerships for CSPC. We retain the Greater China region, which is an important area for us, in particular, since we have the capabilities in development and commercialization. But at the same time, we have a number of preclinical programs that are in ADC focused that we're focusing on developing further, and of course, partner when the right time comes.
Thank you for that sharing. So last but not least is Dr. Wei sharing there. Actually, you kind of like close the transaction for ADC earlier, like 2018 with the INSA. So could you please share that transaction and how that have been developed so far?
So we actually pursuing global and domestic collaboration. So one of the important ones for us is that we license in the payload eribulin from AZI. It's a commercial product for breast cancer and sarcoma. Yeah, so it's a very unique payload with unique MOA and also different resistant mechanism compared to other payload. So we developed so far we brought two eribulin ADC to clinical stage. That's a HER2 ADC and EGFR ADC. So for the first one, we already started phase 2 clinical trial. Then EGFR ADC is in phase 1 development. We also developed site-specific technologies to enhance the therapeutic window and the unique increase the overall performance. And so I think definitely the collaboration is the key to advance the drug product development. For our product, we also get IND approval both in China and the US. So it is, this is to let it recognize it's the global, it's have the global presence for those molecules. Yeah. So we also currently we also actively pursuing funding the global partner to for those leading programs to maximize their product value. Yeah. I think in China, if you have a good product, you definitely will be able to fund the funding. So even last year in the difficult time, we also closed our B+ round in October, last year.
So it seems like the money still follows the good assets, good science.
Yes, I think so. I think we raised the funding for 4 times, angel and the A and the B+. So 70% of fund are US fund, only 30% it was RMB fund. So we are pretty much more because they see our pipeline and also our portfolio. Everything we're doing is more like an international setting. And we are, being in China, but we are really for global, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that sharing. So it seems all the transactions seems really advanced the drug development, especially such as leverage each of the region's advantage, the China population, and also the innovation from China or from Western to China. I think such like a cross collaboration is definitely the trend to go. But what are some key trends observed in the biopharma partnering in the last several years, especially as it related to China?
Do you want me to start? I can start.
Sure, please.
Yeah, so I think you've outlined it pretty nicely, Go. I think there's 2 ecosystems in play here. One is China to global. So China-based companies are out licensing to global players to get access to global markets with respect to development and commercialization capabilities outside of China, because a lot of Chinese companies have been able to really harness their capabilities within China, but certainly need help outside of China. So they turn to Western-based or European-based companies. So when you look historically on the activity, we see an uptick, a significant uptick in a number of companies that are out licensing to Western companies. If you look at 2016, 2017 timeframe, that 2-year period, there were only 13 deals per year. In 2018 to 2019, the next 2 years, it doubled. It went to about 25 deals per year. And in the last 2 years, 2021, 2022, it doubled again. So it went to 52 deals per year. And I think it just shows you the maturation of the business or the life sciences in China that brings this innovation that is now attractive to Western based companies. The other ecosystem is the other way around, where you have the global to China. So China-based companies in license from Western-based companies, so they can leverage now their scale and clinical development and commercialization, which is quite common. And that was really the forefront of bringing innovation into China. So when we look at the trends there has been a significant uptick in that activity as well, because Chinese companies have been able to really build scale and expertise. And it's something that some Western-based companies have not been able to establish in China. And therefore, they leverage partnering with specific Chinese companies, such as CSPC, of course, which we have a significant development and commercialization capabilities. So when you start looking at the trends there, we see a doubling of activity there as well. From 2000 to about 2015, you saw about 60 deals per year. In the last 7 years, and actually very recently, that has peaked. Now we're seeing about 150. So it doubled again to 150 to about 155 deals per year. So there's this really harnessed ecosystem between cross-border deals in either direction, where both the Chinese companies require the expertise from Western-based companies. Western-based companies require the expertise in Chinese-based companies. And a lot of these deals, when you look at volume-wise, the therapeutic area, more than 50% of those deals are in oncology area.
Yeah.
And the next one is CNS, I think would be the next, and infectious disease. So there's a really good relationship here between the two regions in terms of the partnering activity that we've seen in the industry.
So we kind of like see the balance now. Like before was more licensed to China. China take innovation from Western, and now we see the China's science fly from East to West. And yeah.
And you see that maturation that has occurred in China to really bring, they went from a Me Too type of innovation to now first-in-class, best-in-class type of innovation, where it attracts now the big players in the Western and European space.
And also, I think we see like the China license out are more the early stage, and out to the Western, and Western more licensed in the Western will license out the more later stage to China.
Yeah, no, I think John covered it very comprehensively. Nothing much to add, but I think what you mentioned is, probably true. The Kelun deal was certainly earlier stage, license assets, more, that the global companies such as Merck can develop it globally, do regulatory filings, and commercialize it globally. Whereas the other way around, it is more of assets and Chinese rights to those for commercialization, especially for companies which may not have global commercial infrastructure, especially in China, which is a complex market that is difficult to navigate for a smaller player. So for example, Zai Labs has been very successful in sort of getting rights from innovative smaller biotech companies for their assets to Chinese rights. Building that infrastructure there to develop and commercialize in China makes a lot of sense. For a global company like Merck, China is our second biggest market after the US. So, it's an important market for us that we like to maintain as well. We have a, big commercial infrastructure there.
So, I just wonder, like, actually, Merck has a big team in China, so that you will also bring the innovation to China, like just for China market?
It's more from the perspective of our existing pipeline drugs, right? So, Keytruda or Gardasil or, Lynparza, Lenvima, the drugs that we have developed, and are selling globally. We also bring them, develop it in China and sell to the Chinese market, right? So that's what I was saying, from an innovation perspective, I'm sure, we are bringing clinical trial expertise, regulatory and CMC manufacturing expertise to China to support that market.
Thank you for that sharing. Also, we see that the trend is also the real disease in Western countries, like the assets developed in the US and with the real disease, and actually in China have the bigger patient population that can be like attractive to a lot of Chinese company, and there's potential to develop the assets for the bigger patient population as well together, so they can leverage the patients population from China. So Robert and Dr. Wei, what do you see that, or what do you, as a biotech company, the founder, what do you experience the changes of the like different partnership now?
Let Dr. Wei to comment that.
Yeah, you mentioned about the orphan drug, I think, indication. I think that's certainly it's an advantage, like, for example, we get the orphan drug designation for our HER2 enabling ADC in US. That's orphan drug in US, but in China, it does have a big population for gastric cancer, right? For that indication, it's often for gastric in US, and really China, you can recruit a lot of big patient population. That certainly is, you want to unite the strengths and uniqueness of both sides to advance the drug product. I do see that, China become the #1 country for ADC entering clinical trial. Every year the number is growing. So certainly you see there are a lot of, ADC product is getting out there, and a lot of innovation. I think, we definitely want to really get the China strengths, advantage, to getting the product moving forward.
Let me add one more comment. Basically, Chinese company now is only in the early stage of the clinical development. So I believe with the next few years, once the ADC product or other, the biotech drug, once it mature of the clinical trials, typically for the later stage, there were more the innovation or more the clinical, the gets the evidence, the ADC or other product have the unique the efficacy or unique the treatment for the rare disease or other oncology or others different type of disease. Then we believe the more the deals with the big US pharma or other the global pharma will be more and more the opportunity for the collaboration. So right now it's still early in the development stage in China now. So that's why the many Chinese companies try to license in the late stage of the product. So next 5 years will be another way as well. So the both way will be happen very soon.
So that's a very quite interesting, like see in the US, we kind of like a Pfizer acquire Syngene, like is already later stage consolidation now. And China, actually the development of ADC probably is still in the early development stage. So I would love to continue this conversation and learn more from all of you, but we have limited time here. So for the last, I would invite everyone to share some advice for the company who are develop ADC and how can capture such the headwind here.
Yeah, I can start there. So I think the first piece of advice that I would always give to companies, not just ADC, but any companies, is think very, very carefully about the targets that you're going to go after. I mean, I think somebody had mentioned HER2 is probably the target that every single ADC company goes, but the question really is how many HER2 ADCs do we need? You know, especially given HER2 and the success around that. Do we really expect, you know, 20th biotech to succeed, you know, with the HER2 ADC? And we understand why they want to do that. It's a clinically validated target, so it validates their platform. But, you know, positioning that as a lead, you know, sometimes can, you know, dissuade and, you know, lose value as well from a competition perspective. So think very carefully about targets, emerging targets, which have, you know, more early clinical validations can be interesting, you know. So that's the first piece I would say. The second piece is, you know, in terms of collaboration, you know, as I mentioned from the Kelun deal, you know, generally being open to, you know, smaller deals, you know, many times even research evaluations. We many times do MTAs to evaluate other parties' technology in-house. And if we really like what we see at our own hands, we, you know, go for bigger licensing deals. So being open from that perspective, having us, you know, do the diligence, take a closer look at, you know, the technology, understand the science better, even do an evaluation agreement, start small, build that relationship and trust, be open to feedback and be open to, you know, changing and being to the standard that a big company would want, you know, certainly opens the door. And, you know, the success story with Kelun is really an example of that. So those are the two pieces I would, you know, and the third is CMC. I should not, you know, forgot about that, but because many times smaller companies do sort of keep that, you know, a little bit for the last minute, but you know, in a complex modality such as ADC, it's quite important.
Thank you for that sharing. I think that is very like important advice for the company develop the ADC, and especially who wanted to partner with the Merck.
I can go next. I go share.
Please,
I mean, I can look at. I think it was very nicely put by Nikhil on that aspect, especially from an evaluation standpoint and alignment. I think from a partnership perspective, as we're embarking on more cross-border deals, and I think these are becoming very prominent in the industry. I think it's important when you're looking to partner with a Chinese company, or even us, or Chinese company partnering with a Western or European-based company. I think the important aspect in picking the right partner is to ensure that there's a shared vision for the product, that there's alignment on the development and the direction of the asset, and certainly the partnership, because these deals, given that these are regional type of deals, you're splitting a region between the parties. These are very collaborative in nature, and whatever happens in our territory impacts our partner in their territory. Whatever development is happening in their territory impacts certainly the development in our territory. So it's important to get that alignment early on in terms of how you work together, and bring the technical and the stakeholders early in the process, and begin to have those discussions between the medical folks to really understand how each party views the product, because you're building a long-term relationship, and you want to ensure that certainly you both share the same success factors as you're driving forward with the partnership.
That's really true. The global collaboration development of drug is not like transactional. Actually, it's kind of like we say the marriage or you adopt a baby, you're going to develop it together. You're working on the same thing from the different region, even required more the teamwork and the team synergy. So Robert, you want to share the advice from as a Chinese biotech founder?
Yeah, basically you comment already, collaboration like marriage, you can head up anything at all. You need to team up with your partner. Like us, we work close with our partner, not the J&J, also with other partners in China as well. We show them the technology, show them the best. The first things like the Nikki mentioned that you do not want too much wants to get too much money from their partner. Let them trust your technology first, then try it a little bit, then make the trust first, then you can collaborate together. Let them to believe you and believe your technology. Then the deal will happens. Otherwise, you cannot get anything at all. So then I thought I should comment. For the target, right now, many people work on the same thing, but basically, a lot of company, like the startup company, do not fail in the target selections. Because only the mature or those types of the target will be the tolerate the fail, for the early stage. But in the long run, probably the same target will be the very tough for the development. A lot of the young companies do not have many other choice. They have always do that. For us, originally we chose the same the target. Right now we change the different things, try to make the more innovation by ourselves. So not like a beginner anymore. So that's
the family is also based on the experience, right? When you collect more the experience for the past 10 years, you can see the future clear.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Dr. Wei?
Hi, I think I'd like to add a few points. First is the differentiation. So I believe in, there are many ADCs under development, people, especially on certain, some are on the similar targets, right? So, but I think the differentiation is the key. When you design the molecule, you want to ask whether this will add a different value to, then at that time, you should look at it, whether your payload or the antibody, the part you're designing, really gonna address the unmet medical need, right? Also, when you choose indication is another way to differentiate your product. Speaking of HER2 ADC, because in HER2's approval, right, not only for breast cancer, it's also for like a more like just a different type of the HER2 expression cancer. It does change the paradigm of the treatment paradigm as well as the patient population paradigm. It's a good starting point, and I think it's opened up a lot of opportunities, but it does have challenge as well. But you do want to see whether your product and that paradigm still can address the unmet medical need. For example, in HER2-resistant patient, or there's indication maybe topoisomerase does not do very well. Your payload or your molecule can do better. So I think that's differentiation is the key for the success. In terms of the collaboration, I think the building trust and relationship is also the key for success. And because the company has different culture, right? We're in China, then the other side of the world, I think that there are a lot of things maybe they do not quite understand if they don't work with Chinese company routinely. And there are some cultural difference. There are a lot of things, we work with our, international partner, also the domestic partner as well. we think, it can, everything can be worked out. Hope everyone get a success.
Thank you. Thank you everyone's sharing the insightful and meaningful opinion, and also your personal experience, and also witness how the ADC developed from the early stage to now. And we are still like debating, is a peak time, or like for China is still early stage, and for US maybe is like more mature, but we still believe, I think everyone agreed that we still believe there's a lot of the opportunities still waiting for us. And thanks everyone for sharing their advice. And so I hope all the audience learn from this panel, and then we will develop a more effective treatment for the patients. Thanks. Thank you again.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me. Very good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.